My name is Michael Turner. For years I believed in God, but slowly I drifted. Life in Chicago was busy, work was stressful, and I filled my days with distractions that left little room for faith. Deep down, I felt the gentle tug of God on my heart, but I kept pushing it aside, telling myself, I'll come back later. I didn't realize how dangerous later could be. Before I go further, I want to pause. If you're listening to me right now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment when you knew God was calling you closer, but you pushed it aside? Please share your thoughts in the comments. It might encourage someone else too. And if stories like this speak to your heart, I invite you to subscribe so you can walk with me and others through more testimonies that remind us of what truly matters. On August 2nd evening, I was driving home after a long day at work. The city lights blurred against my tired eyes, and my mind was weighed down with worries, money, bills, my future. My faith felt far away, almost like a memory from childhood. I didn't know that in just moments, everything was about to change. The sound of screeching tires tore through the night. A car came out of nowhere, slamming into mine with such force that the world spun into chaos. Metal crushed, glass shattered, and my body was thrown violently. I don't remember the exact moment when the noise faded, but suddenly, everything went still. I opened my eyes, but what I saw left me speechless. I wasn't in my body anymore. My broken body lay slumped inside the wreckage, twisted between the seat and the shattered glass. I was hovering above, watching it all, trying to understand what had just happened. A strange calmness filled me, mixed with confusion. I thought to myself, am I dead? Is this it? As I looked down at the scene, I realized I had stepped into something far greater than I could comprehend. I felt torn between two worlds. Below me, I could see the broken metal of my car twisted like a toy, the flashing ambulance lights bouncing off the wet pavement, and people rushing frantically to the scene. I saw my body, still lifeless, crushed beneath the weight of the crash. It was strange because I knew that was me, but at the same time, I felt completely separate from it. There was no pain in me now, only confusion and a strange quiet. I remember trying to reach out, to touch someone, to shout, but nothing came from me. No one could see me, no one could hear me. I was only an observer in that moment, and for the first time in my life, I realized how fragile everything really was. All the worries I had carried, my bills, my job, my struggles, they felt so small compared to what I was facing now. And then something happened that I will never forget. The world around me seemed to fade, like the colors of the city were dissolving. In place of the noise and chaos, there was a pull, gentle but strong, drawing me upward. It was as though an unseen hand was lifting me from the scene of the accident. My eyes turned from the brokenness below to a brilliance ahead of me. I was being carried into a tunnel of light. It stretched before me endlessly, but it was not frightening. The light was alive. It wasn't like the brightness of a flashlight or the harsh glare of the sun. It was warm, radiant, and filled with a love that touched every part of me. For the first time in years, I felt whole. I felt safe. As I moved through the tunnel, I began to hear something. It was faint at first, like a whisper, but it grew stronger the deeper I went. It wasn't music the way we know it on earth, but it was harmony, voices echoing in a way that filled me with awe. I cannot explain it fully, but it felt as though creation itself was singing. The sound carried both majesty and peace, and the more I listened, the more I realized my soul had been waiting for this all along. I kept moving forward, weightless, surrounded by this radiant love. The further I went, the more the shadows of my earthly life faded away. Regret, shame, distraction, those things had no power here. All I felt was a deep awareness that I was being drawn into the very presence of God. And then, at the end of the tunnel, I saw him. Not with my physical eyes, but with a clarity beyond human sight. Jesus stood there, clothed in glory brighter than the sun, yet gentle enough to draw me closer without fear. His presence was overwhelming, both mercy and majesty all at once. I had drifted so far from my faith, yet here he was waiting for me, not with condemnation, but with a love I had never known before. The moment I realized it was him, I knew I was standing on holy ground. Every part of me trembled, not from fear but from awe. And in that instant, everything I thought I knew about life, faith, and eternity was about to change. The light around him was not just brightness, it was life itself. Standing before Jesus, I felt as though every hidden part of me was being uncovered. Nothing was hidden from his gaze, and yet, instead of turning away in shame, I felt drawn even closer. His eyes, oh his eyes. They were like oceans, Deep, endless, and filled with a love that words can barely touch. In that gaze I felt both known and forgiven. I wanted to fall at his feet. I wanted to tell him how unworthy I was, how many times I had failed, how often I had ignored his voice calling me. But before I could even speak, he reached out his hand, and the touch of his presence silenced all my fears. It wasn't condemnation I felt, it was mercy. It was the kind of love that breaks you, yet at the same time puts you back together. He spoke, but it wasn't with sound, it was spirit speaking to spirit. His words echoed inside me and they were clear. Michael, my child, I love you. But the time is short. Many are not ready. Many who call my name are far from me. I am showing you this so that you may tell them. As he said this, the light around him expanded and suddenly I was lifted higher. My eyes were opened to see what was coming. I saw a great trumpet being lifted in heaven, and the moment it sounded, the earth below shook. People were caught up in a flash, vanishing into the skies, their faces filled with joy. But what broke me was seeing others left behind. Some were crying, falling to their knees in anguish. Many of them were people who had called themselves believers, who had gone to church, who had even spoken his name, yet their hearts had never truly surrendered to him. The pain on their faces was unbearable to watch. They ran to empty houses, to churches where pews were abandoned, to streets filled with confusion. Their screams rose into the air, but it was too late. The door had been shut. The trumpet had sounded and they had missed it. I looked back at Jesus with tears streaming from my soul. I couldn't hold the weight of what I was seeing. Lord, I cried, why are so many left behind? He looked at me with sorrow in his eyes, yet his love never faded. Because their lips honored me, but their hearts were far from me. They lived for this world, but not for my kingdom. Tell them, Michael. Tell them that I am coming soon. Tell them to be ready. The vision continued, and I saw September marked like a warning. The heavens shifted, and I knew something great and terrible was near. Jesus didn't give me the exact day or hour, but he showed me enough to know that the time is urgent, that the season is upon us. The weight of his words crushed me and lifted me all at once. I wanted to stay in his presence forever, but I also knew I had been entrusted with something that could not be hidden. My life was no longer my own. Then he said something that pierced me deeply. Michael, I am giving you another chance because your work is not finished. Go back and speak. Do not be silent, for many souls depend on it. At that moment, the light around him began to fade and I felt myself being pulled back, away from the glory, away from the heavenly music, away from that perfect peace. My heart ached because leaving him was the hardest thing I had ever felt. But I knew my assignment was not done. The moment I began to drift from the light, I felt a deep sorrow tear through me. It was as if my soul was being pulled from the warm embrace of eternity and pressed back into the fragile shell of my earthly body. I wanted to cry out, "Please, Lord, let me stay," but his words echoed in me, words that I could not deny, "Your work is not finished." Suddenly I felt weight again. The heaviness of flesh, the struggle of breath, the pain of my sickness, it all rushed back like a violent storm. My eyes opened slowly and the hospital room came into view. Machines beeped around me, doctors and nurses were rushing, and my family's faces were stained with tears. They had thought I was gone. My heart had stopped. Yet here I was, alive. I tried to speak, but my voice was weak. All I could whisper was, "Jesus, Jesus." And at that moment, my wife collapsed beside me, weeping uncontrollably, thanking God that I had come back. But something inside me had shifted. I was not the same man who had left. The fear of death was gone. The chase for worldly success no longer mattered. The only thing burning in me was the urgency of his message, the cry of Jesus for his people to wake up before it is too late. As the days passed and I recovered, the visions I had seen would not leave me. They were carved into my spirit. At night, I would close my eyes and hear the trumpet. I would see faces of people, some joyful, some left behind in despair. I could hear the cries of regret, the desperate voices shouting, "Lord, wait! Take us too." But it was too late. I began to understand that this was not just for me. This was for the world. Jesus had spared me not because I deserved it, but because he loved his people too much to let them perish without warning. The vision of September burned in my heart. I do not know the exact day or hour, but I know the season. I know the warning. Jesus was clear. Time is running out. Too many are living as if tomorrow is promised, as if the trumpet will never sound. But it will. And when it does, there will be no second chances. From that day forward, I could no longer remain silent. I began speaking in my church, in gatherings, even to strangers. Some believed and their hearts were stirred. Others mocked, laughed, and dismissed me. But their reactions didn't matter. What mattered was obedience to the one who had shown me mercy and given me life again. Each time I share this testimony, I relive that moment, standing before Jesus, seeing his love, feeling his sorrow, hearing his urgent call. And each time, my heart breaks all over again for those who are not ready. If you are hearing my story, please listen, not to me but to the voice of the one who sent me back. Do not play with eternity. Do not live as if you have endless time. The trumpet will sound and it will be sudden. Prepare your heart, for the Lord is coming soon. I may not know the exact hour, but I know this: time is short. And I will spend the rest of my days shouting his truth, because I was sent back for this reason.